Yes, I've started recording. Yeah, start with the introductions. Hello, everybody.
Hi.
And I'm going to start with your introduction.
Oh, okay, great. So, welcome everyone, and we are happy to have you here for today's session. I hope those of you who were here for yesterday enjoyed yesterday's session, and today we are going to hopefully at the end just as I always say, is a place where you get to ask questions and learn it by heart from here. So when he starts, Adeole is a facilitator for today. When he starts, you can pause him at any point in time and ask questions. All right, so Adeole, you can take it.
Okay. Yeah, good evening, guys. Today, as a follow-up to yesterday's session, we're going over some more command line stuff. Right? And today's session is going to be looking into working from the command line with text editors, Vim, Emacs, and Nano, and also managing Git from the command line. So you're going to be doing Git and, of course, GitHub and a few other things, minor things. Yeah, so that's basically what this is about. So I'm going to start sharing my screen now. Let me know if you can see my screen.
Okay.
Yeah, see my screen. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm going to switch to my terminal. Okay, so this is my terminal. A fresh, close to vanilla, right? There's nothing. I've not changed anything in it, and in fact, if I have to do ls now, you would. I mean, we quickly do the ls alias ls equal to ls color is equal to. Oh, sorry, typo. Yeah, so fix the alias. Yeah, so this is a fresh terminal that has nothing in it. Right? So yeah, I think we should start with let's start with Git and GitHub, right? So so what is Git? Git is a version control software. If you've done, most people are familiar with the concept of version control, right? If you've done anything that requires iteration, you're writing a report, you start with one version, and then you make changes, and you save that version somewhere else again, and maybe you make some changes, or maybe you lose a file and you start from a backup. That's the idea of version control. That every time you make changes to something, there's now a new copy or a way that you can now track your changes. That is version control. For your undergraduate project, if you had to make a proposal that was amended and you had to make changes to it, you understand that you now have usually multiple copies of the same file. You have project proposal 1, project proposal 2, and on and on until you have final project and final project 1 and 2. So that's the idea of version control. So Git offers a way for you to do that on your computer by tracking the files for you. Right? It's a complex piece of software. Many products are built on it, but the idea itself is simple. It offers you a way for you to do stuff on your computer and track it. It doesn't have to be code, it can be other things, but most people use it for code. It's just the nature of code is text files, and text files are what you often modify frequently over time. So that's what Git is. So if you want to check if you have Git installed in your Linux environment, you run Git version. And on this computer, I have Git version 2.341. Right? And so this is important sometimes because older versions of Git, their changes come over time. And if you have a version of Git before, I think 1.7, some things might work differently for you, right? So you probably won't have that, but just keep that in mind. Yeah. So that's Git. So what is GitHub? GitHub is a web service that is built on Git. Git is the base, the version control software that uses a computer. But GitHub is a way for you to now have those same files, the same version control, now have them online on the web. And that allows you to share your code. It allows collaboration. You can work on the same project with other people, the same code, same files. So there are other, GitHub is the most popular one because it's used by most people. But there are also other options like GitLab, there's Fossil, there's Savannah, there are other ones, but GitHub is the most popular one. So a lot of people tend to conflate these two things. Git is the version control software on your computer, right? GitHub is something that builds on Git to help you host your code in quote unquote the cloud, right? Online. So yeah. So when you let me just go to this. So usually you can start, let me just see into my GitHub directory, right? Yeah. So ls so let's say I created a new directory here for PLD, right? I'll cd into that directory, right? If I say, okay, I want to make a directory here, I could say, let me say mkdir. I want to name this test, right? And I cd into tests. So test is an empty directory. So I just created it. So I did ls minus a. There's nothing inside it, just the links to this directory and previous one. All right, to then do, let me just add some files. I want to touch, say for example, it's a Python project. Now I want to type, create a few files. Let me just say hello.py and let's say py.py. Let's assume that this way code files are done some working, and I want to make this directory a Git repo. I could then run a command called git init. So this command initializes a repo in the directory that is running. And if I do man git init, right? It says git init will create an empty Git repository or reinitialize an existing one, right? This command creates an empty repository, basically a Git directory with a right? So if I to do git init here, right? Let's run the command git init. You say initialize empty Git repository in this is the path to this file, right? So everything seems to have there seems to have been no changes, right? It's just still these two files I created here. But if I was to do ls minus a now, see there's now a hidden directory .git. This .git is what makes a directory on your machine a repo, right? So if we have to go into the .git directory, right, cd into .git and ls, so it now has files for your branches, your config, your description, your head, your hooks, your info, objects, and refs, right? So yeah, this is how it works. This is how you create a Git repo on your machine. So this is one way to do it. So assuming I've done this, I've done all this, I could then link this to a repo on GitHub. I could create an empty repo, link it, and then push my files to it. But usually what you would do is the opposite, right? In this case, let me just cd here. So period. In this case, I want to go to GitHub and get a repo, right? Say I want to copy this. So I come here, I say git clone, I say this, I paste this address, this string I got from GitHub, right? So yeah, I could clone this way. I would get any files that were in GitHub, I would copy them to my local machine in a repo, but I wouldn't have some permissions. So for that reason, you would need some authentication, right? So we need to copy a PAT, or depending on how you're cloning, right? There are multiple ways, right? But let me just clone this. So I've cloned this file, and I cd into Studios, we stick now, and ls. I have all the files that I had online here, just read me and this test file, right? I open the test file. It says this is the test, and if I to cut this file, right?
Sorry, Wally.
Yeah, yes, please.
Sorry, so there seems to be a lag between what we're seeing on the screen and what you're seeing. I don't know.
Interesting. I can't remember the lag. Like, what are you seeing on my screen now?
You've not typed for a while, but I remember when you were trying to do the git clone thing, you were far into the future what you were saying than what
Oh, interesting. Interesting. That cause problems. Let me try. What to do?
I don't know, it might be a Telegram thing, but I mean, props.
Yeah, possibly. Yes. I don't know. I have no idea how to remedy that.
Go ahead and let me try confirm that if it's showing my
Okay,
case.
no problem. Okay. Yeah, so this is how you would clone a repo. But because I cloned this repo without any authentication, right? I just cloned it. I didn't add the PAT to it. I don't have some permissions. Like if I try to push a file now, let me test it. Say I want to create a file here, and I said, let's say no PAT. TXT. Say I clone this without any authentication. And I save this file. So if I was to run git status now, tells me that my branch is up to date with the origin main, but I have untracked files, no pht.txt. So I could then add that file. Git add no pht. Right? If I was to do git status now, it tells me that I have changes to be committed because I've then staged this file now. You see the color has changed. It's now green. Right? So I could do git commits -m, and I could say no pht. Right? It has committed the file now. Right? And if I run git status again, it tells me my branch is ahead of this by one commit. Use git push to publish your local commits. Right? So if I was doing this for a local project, I've created a commit. I've told Git to take a snapshot of the files in this repo at this point. Git has done that, right? That's how you get. That's what you see here. Create mode. This. It's telling you that okay, Git has taken a snapshot, and since the last time Git checked this repo, there's one file changed, and that the change is one insertion, right? That is Git telling you that since the last time I checked this repo, these so files have changed, and there have been this amount of insertions, this amount of deletions. It tracks different changes. If for example, you have scripts or executables, it tracks your permissions. So if you were to change permissions for a script, you add execute permissions, you will see mode change, right? If you delete a file, you will see deletes and stuff like that. So it also tracks your other stuff besides the actual number of files that changed. So let's say I want to push this now, right? Say git push. It's asking me for my username, right? On github.com. Because I cloned it without a PAT, right? There's no authentication. It doesn't know who I am now. So anybody can clone a public repo and just go to anybody's repo on GitHub, right? And clone their repo. I'll have the files on my machine. But I couldn't then push to that repo because I don't have authentication. You would need some form of authentication. Maybe somebody has added you to a project as a collaborator or something, right? Or maybe you have like you've cloned it with a PAT that has access to that repository. So I think that is the basics of Git and GitHub. The flow for working with your files is I think it's fivefold, right? So you understand that you have repos locally and on GitHub, right? So let me just come here and let me come.
Can I ask something?
Yeah, please ask.
Okay, here you didn't create, you cloned without permissions, but people have been getting errors where they actually cloned and put their token there, but then they're asked for their password and username every time.
Yeah, so that means there's a mistake somewhere in the process, right? If you clone, and I can show you that now. Like, let me just come here and right, let's cd into self-paste, right? So ls. So these are some of my own repos, right? So if I was to come here and say, think properly, right? Let me see what's in properly. Yeah. So this is a repo I have from just like test for JavaScript. Right? So if I go to say, I want to check my history. I want to search for okay. Electricity is actually on here. Right. How did I clone this? Yeah. Well, let me just grab a quick just reset this. Let me just grab a repo, right? And where is this? Interesting is GitHub.com. Symmetrical triple is okay. Let me get this one. Symmetrical triple. Okay. Can you guys see my screen currently?
Yes.
Hello. Okay.
Yes.
What do you see on my screen?
You're looking at you're on the part whereby you're clicking on the secure shell part and HTTPS. The URL is showing.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. That's good. Yeah. So these are different ways to clone, right? So you can clone with HTTPS, you can clone with your SSH, you can clone with the GitHub CLI, right? So we usually most people start with HTTPS. So let's try this. So I want to copy this, right? HTTPS string. And I come back here and I say, okay. Before I do this, let me just let me create a file just real quick. Say nano, and let me just say x. Right? So I want to add this here. Okay? So I want to save this. Right? So I'll cast this inside here. So I want to grab my PAT. Remember exactly where it is because that means it's been a while. Right? So I think it should be in tools, I think. Files. I think setup here. Right? So, let's cut it. It's a short file. Setup. Okay, I'm just opening it. Manual setup. Yeah. So this is my PhD, right? So I want to grab this. Okay. Okay. So I want to close this. I want to go to yeah. Okay. So if I were to nano x, yeah. So I have to then paste this here, right? Okay. So I can then copy everything here. Right? And it's so I could then do git clone and paste this, right? This is what I'm talking about. This is a complete string to clone
Yes.
a URL here with authentication, rather my PAT at the rest of the string, right? So I'll do this now. So I've cloned into the So, and I can go into it, say symmetrical triple. Right? Let's set the files in it, right? So I could then create a file now, and I'm just say cats testing, right? This is a test test file. Right? So I save that. So if I cats testing now, test file, right? So if I run git status now, same thing, says our on-track file. So I do git add testing, right? When I run git status again, it says I've staged that file now. I have changes to be committed. So I do git commit -m. I say testing, right? When I do git status now, it tells me my branch is ahead of this my upstream branch by 1 commit. And so just I do git push. So if I do git push now, okay, it has pushed my upstream, and it said if I do git status now, it tells me nothing to commit, working pretty clean, and I have no files. My branches are in sync now. And if I go back to this place and I refresh this page, you see the file testing should be here now. Yeah, testing now, right? So if you clone your repo with your PAT like this, you should have no authentication problems, right? So if you do this, yeah, if you clone like this, you should have no problems whatsoever with authentication, at least while your PAT is valid, right? If you clone like this way, you should have no problems whatsoever with your authentication. You see, I've created a file, I've done something, and it hasn't done anything. So I can go back here and delete this file on GitHub, right? We'll come and delete testing, right? Right, so I could delete the file and I could commit the changes. Right? If I go back to my terminal, right, and I do a git pull, you see, it says fast forward testing. It has deleted the file, delete mode testing, and it tells me that one file has been changed, 1 deletion. And because it's just 1 line, right? It tells me 1 line. This counts the number of lines that have been changed or deleted or modified. So that's basically your workflow for working for GitHub. You are pulling, pushing, you're doing the remaining is local, Git and add, they're local, right? Add and commit are local operations. So if you clone your repo that way, you should have no problems working with Git and to GitHub, right? So yeah, get your PAT. I think I just saw recently that there are now 2 types of PATs. Maybe that's a problem. There's the classic and the, I think, fine-grained. Get the classic token, right? So it usually starts with GHP _ something. So yeah, so get the classic token. So any questions? I think that's all for BK. The only thing that we haven't covered in BK for now is branching, right? I think, yeah. So what is branching? You see here now, it tells me your branch is up to date with origin main. Because when you create, yeah. Yes, please.
Can you hear me?
Yeah,
Good.
clearly.
So I have a question concerning the tokens. In fact, I didn't know that they had updated and they had 2 types of tokens until yesterday or so when someone reached out to ask me about it. And today too, someone else has reached out. And I realized that both of them use a fine-grained one. Well, like is there, like, what the difference? And does it mean if they use the fine-grained one, it's not going to work with their projects?
Yeah, so the thing about repos is that when you create a token, you have 2 options. The fine-grained tokens are actually in development. You see, that's still in beta, right? So it's fine-grained because it offers you more granular control over your repos, over your permissions, right? You can scope it to particular repos. You know, if I have a token, I can clone all my repos on my GitHub account. But a fine-grained token, I can limit that token to particular repos, right? I can limit it to more granular permissions. I can maybe, I want this anybody that's playing with this repo, or if I run on the machine, to have these permissions, but not these, right? Maybe I wanted him to create, to be able to like to review packages, to view packages, but not delete them, right? Stuff like that. Maybe that wanted to be able to contribute to issues, but not create a new issue. So it's fine grained. Yeah, that's why it's like the scopes are more, can change them.
Okay.
But we were using the classic. There are no classic tokens then, but what we had at that time was just the PAT. It's now the classic token, right? So maybe that's the problem. They should try to get the classic tokens and use that for their authentication. Right?
Okay. Well understood. Yeah. Unfortunately, I've been using SSH all through, so
yeah, I've been using SSH for a while, right? So that's why you see, I had to go look for that file, that SSH, because I've not used it for a while, right? But when I was moving to Linux, I copied my VM files. So yeah,
all right.
I think the only part of Git now is branches, right? So yeah, because Git is version control, the history is important, right? So you can check the history of a Git repo by using git log, right? And you can see this is my repo, and these are the changes, these are the comments I'll be making, right? You see, this is the one we just did, testing and testing. You have automatic weekly backups, right? Right? So you can check the history, right? Of this is the end of the history for this repo, right? I created it in October. Sometime in October anyway, right? So this is the history, right? You see, I made the pull request on this day. I had the test. I waited my README, updated README. I cleaned it up. I removed some file summits, right? I added some JavaScript files, automatic backup. So, right? So this is important because sometimes you will break your code and you have to revert your repo to a state previously. You have to come get the hash for the commits. You can do that from your command line by doing git log, or you can come to GitHub and come to look at the commit history. Right? You come here, it's the same thing, right? Obviously, the hashes are abbreviated here to the first, I think, 7 characters, yes, right? If you look at the hashes for the last 3, it's 2C73D5EE, right? It's the same commits, right? So I go here, right? The hash 2C73D5EE75826 is the same thing that's presented. You're looking at one in your terminal and one on GitHub, right? So maybe, for example, I made a change sometime here and that broke my work, right? I introduced a bug into my code. I can revert at any time to any commits before that point by coming here to get the hash, right? And using that to git reset. There are commands you learn later, but like that's like a more intermediate or advanced. You don't actually need that for now. But that is why you should have, and you can help yourself to find that commits by giving your commits unique commit names, right? So example, you want to add timestamps to their commits or what the commit is doing. You see, delete bash files, update readme. These are stuff that are generated. It's generated by the CLI itself, right? Or GitHub. It's telling you, it's describing what the commit does. So that if you have to, if you're searching for it, and eventually if it's a repo that let me just show you an example, right? This is just like a repo I used for like an ALX repo, like low-level programming, right? I probably have like hundreds of commits here. See, 213 commits. So it'll be much more difficult for me to look for a particular commit within 213 commits than a smaller repo. So, but if I have like descriptive stuff in, right, it's easier for me to find the task I'm looking for, right? Just okay, and come and find it and get my hash and do what I want to do. So you should bear that in mind when creating commits and you want to give your commits unique names, right? So the last thing, or second to last thing, is branching, right? So if I should do git branch here, there's only one branch, the main branch, right? But if I want to create another branch, you can do git branch, right? Usually what I do is git checkouts minus b, and you see your branch name. In this case, I want to name it test, right? It actually combines two commands, git checkout and git branch, right? So for example, let me just man git checkout. Right? It says switch branches or restore working tree files. Right? Say git checkout -q is quiet, f is false, m is what was m again? I remember. Let's check. Yeah, q is quiet, f is false. What's p is new branch? What's m? M is merge. M is merge, yeah, and p is patch. Right? So these are slightly more advanced, and you're probably not going to need them anytime soon. But yeah. So if I do git checkout -b, right? And I say I want to create tests. I'm creating a new branch called tests. And after I create it immediately, I'm switching to that branch, right? So if I enter this now, right? See, switch to a new branch tests. If I were to do git branch, and I have two branches, and Git is telling me that I'm in a test branch. So this is how you create branches on GitHub. And because I just created this test branch from the main branch, is the same thing. It has the same files. It's a clone right now before I make any changes of the main branch. If I were to do diff, right? It's a git diff, right? It's a git diff for tests and main. It will return nothing. That means there are no differences. But let's say I just created a file now. Just touch testing. Okay. And I run this command again. It still says nothing, right? Because I've not created anything here. It's still an on-track file. But if I were to do git add testing, right? I did git commit -m tests, right? If I was to do git diff now for tests and main, it tells me that there's a difference. Git diff -a testing, and it tells me this, right? So yeah, that's basically branches. So when you make your changes, I'm not going to do that here. You make your changes. You usually make branches for a reason. You want to work on a feature, or you want to test something. When you've made your changes, you can now merge the changes from one branch into another branch by doing git merge. So I want to man git merge. So it says git merge, join two or more development histories together. Development history is like the technical term for the commits history of a branch, right? So incorporates changes from named commits. The command is used by Git code to incorporate, right? So this is like an example of a branch. This is the master branch. You created a topic branch. You now merge this back into master, right? So that's what merging is. Merging is taking the changes from one branch and bringing them back into another branch. That's what merging is. So if you're going to merge, you have to be aware of something called a merge conflict. What just happened? Yeah. So something called a merge conflict. That's when you've made changes on one end that conflict with changes on one branch that conflict with changes on another branch. It's called a merge conflict. So I don't want to trigger that here, but if you, let me just do that. Let's say git switch to main. Yeah. All right. So I can barely hear you.
Oh, my network is good now, but I have a question.
Okay, please ask.
My question is, when you type the command git setup upstream, I want to ask if you'll be pushing that, if you'll be pushing the director or the file that you'll be taking upstream to the local branch, or you'll be pushing it to GitHub.
Like I said, if I understand your question, you can use Git without using GitHub, right? You can just make your commits locally to track your history. That's a valid version controls option. But for us, because most of us are ALX students, and checkout runs on GitHub, your workflow includes push it to GitHub. So yes, you can do both, right? You can have, I have some of my repos that have branches that have no upstream. That means they're only local to this machine. There's no stream, there's no branch on GitHub that they're tracking, right? So I just git add, I git commit, I don't git push, there's no git pull. And I have other branches, depending on the projects, that I have upstream repos for, that I push for and I push to, right? So you can have a branch on your machine, and you're not going to be pushing files from it anyway. Just keep it to do stuff. Does that answer your question?
Yes.
I didn't get that. Okay. Yeah. So, yeah. So this is yeah.
Yeah. I have a question. You use the git checkout and also git switch to
Yeah. So git checkouts. Let me just show you the difference. So if I do man git switch, right? It just switches branches. That's all. Switches to a specified branch. The working tree and index are updated to match the branch. That's all. All new commits will be added to the tip of this branch. That's what it does, right? So let's say you can modify the behavior of the flag, right? But this is what it does, right? So if I were to do git status here, and you see, it doesn't have any. I've not brought, if I do git diff, main and tests, right? You see that it's still different. I still don't have test in here, right? But if I was to come back here now, if I do git switch test, I think, yeah, test, right? And I checked out to main, right? So git checkouts main, right? But if you do git status now, you should have that file now. Interesting, it doesn't have the file, that's odd. Hold on, git diff. Can I just rerun git diff? Interesting. Should have checkout usually brings the, hold on, let me say man git checkouts. Usually brings the changes as well. Switch branches or restore. It usually restores this, but working tree files. But hold on, git switch tests, git status. Okay, those I've already cleaned the working tree as well, right? So if I had a file, like say I had touch X, right? I did git status. Right? So you can see there are files on the working tree that I have not staged. So if I do git checkout to main now, it should take this with me, right? So let me test this. What's happening? Hold on. Something is propping. Yeah, okay. If I do git status now, you see, I now have X here, right? So that's the difference between git switch and git checkout. Checkout copies your working tree from the branch you are walking into the branch that you are checking out, right? But git switch does not. That's the difference. So if you're working on a branch, you say I have files in the working tree, and you want to switch to another branch, you don't want to take them along with you. You use git switch. But if you want to, you use git checkout. Right? I hope that answers your question.
Yes. What does that mean? Is it only the ones that is not committed, or including the ones that is committed?
Yeah, the files that have not committed, they're still on your working tree, right? Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. So yeah. So if I have to make a change to this file, this X file now, let's say this X file now. Let me just do that. Right? So if I do ls now, let me clear this. Sets. Right? I'll say ls now, I have the X file here. Now. So the X is an empty file, right? Since I just touched it. Let's say I want to add file to text to X now. Say cat X. Right? And I said creating image conflicts. Okay. If I do git diff now for this main branch and my test branch, so that the difference has changed. It's now new file index. The index has changed, right? Let's imagine that I now wanted to do I had to merge, right? I would have to save this. So let me just switch first. Let me git switch to test. Okay. So if I were to cut the X that is here now, you see that he has brought it, creating a merge conflict. Right? So imagine that I now committed this. Let's say git add X. Okay? Git commits minus M X. Right? So if I do git status now, my working tree is clean, right? Well, it says because there's no upstream branch for this one, there's nothing on GitHub. It's not going to tell me my branch is one commit ahead of anything. It's just a local branch. It's not tracking anything, right? So, for us to do git checkout now, main, right? And I said, okay, this is my file. If I do git status here, right? You see, it has copied everything. There's no change between them. Imagine that I now say I now push something to GitHub, or eventually there was a change in this X file, right? In some way there was a change. Maybe there's some lines added, something. And I wanted to pull from GitHub, and that's what usually happens to you. Maybe you're working from more than one location, you've changed the same file. You have a file on your machine, your local repo, you push to GitHub. Maybe you left your laptop somewhere and you had to work from the sandbox. You've not edited that file on your sandbox or your phone. You've pushed to GitHub. When you pull it, right, going to have a conflict. And I want to demonstrate that for you here now, right? So,
sorry, can you come back with that scenario again? I'm not sure it's clear in my head.
There's a file here, right? This X, ls, right? Sorry, ls. The file doesn't even exist here. Branch. Sorry, git branch. Sorry. Right, I'm my main branch. Right? So let's assume that, and I'll switch to test. Why am I forgetting git commands? Sorry. Right? But I have X here now. So imagine I wanted to do something like this. Git merge. Actually, I should be the other way around. Right? Let me git switch to main. Right? So if I want to git merge test, and you see that he has copied the changes from that branch, and in this case, it's just testing and extra the files, right? 2 changes, 1 insertion, right? Create mode, right? So now, if I do git status on this branch, it says my branch is ahead of the already my upstream is on GitHub by 2 commits, right? And I'll say git push, right? Git push. If I go to my upstream now, right? If I go back to here, right? You can see X, right? Create a merge conflict. This is the file. So if I edited this on GitHub, say I added another line, right? I said creating a merge conflict, say now increase, right? And I save this. What I'm doing here is creating a commit, right? And if I go to this place now, there's a new commit, right? It says now update X. So I was now come here and change the same X file, right? And I say, okay, let's open X, right? And I'll say merge conflicts loading.
Oh, okay.
Right? Right? So, and I'll say, okay, git add x, right? And do git status. Then I have staged it and now git commits minus m ohala. Right? So assuming I try to push now or I pull, right? Let me reset this. Right? If I do git status, it tells me my branch is one ahead of origin main by one commit. That's the last commit I just made. If I try to push now or pull, let me try to push. Because that's usually what you'll be doing, right? You see? Error. Failed to push some red objects were rejected because the remote contains what we know. It tells me to git pull, right? When I try to git pull, it tries to get my work from online here. Now says, you have divergent branches and need to consult them. This is the merge conflict, right? You have work that you don't have online in one place in your local repo, and you have work that you don't have online in your local repo, right? So I can try to do git config. I didn't set this default for my pull because I like to have this option of changing it, right? So if I just say, okay, let me just say I want to rebase only. I say fast forward only, right? You have to understand, you have to look up what these options mean, right?
Sorry, just
right?
before you go forward, can I ask a question?
Yeah. That's a question, but okay.
Say again?
Can I ask a question is a question, but go ahead.
Okay, so my question is, ideally, if you had pulled before you made this last commit, you wouldn't have had an
Yes.
issue, right?
I would have had the merge conflict. I just wanted to explain this now, right? So, right? If I do ls now, or if I just nano x, right? You see that it's still the same thing I have here now. Right? So I have my git config pull. If I git pull now, see, not possible to fast forward a button, right? I say, okay, I want to rebase through. Right? So I git pull. Not possible to fast forward a button, right? That's because I have the changes locally and here. Let's say, and I'll do this now. Say, okay, I know that X is what before that's causing the problem, right? So let me say, and I'll reset this. And I'll say, okay, let me delete X. Right? So I want to delete X, right? R minus V X. Right? So I removed X, right? I'll say ls. And I say, okay, let me pull again. Okay, I do git status, right? Git status. Tells me this, that's what I mean, right? So the options for me, my work, this is the file in my work training that is deleted, right? So my options for this is I can do, this is telling me that I have different one commit to my branch and my this is the divergence, right? So git pull to merge. But this file is still in my working tree, right? So if I try git pull now, right? See, I have changes. So I have to commit or stash them. And I say, okay, what do I do? I say git rm x, right? X. Right? So we have to git status. Right? So I've deleted this now. I can commit git commits minus m, say removed x. Right? So I can then try to git pull again. Because my working tree is now clean now. Right? Seems not possible to fast forward about saying, right? So I say, okay, what's happening? My git status. Say you have two and one different commits you get to use git pull to make remote back into yours. I say, what's the problem? If I look at my git log, see what I added X, right? I edited it and I moved it. That should have solved the problem, right? When I go to my GitHub, I see what's the problem. I put my commit history. right? I pushed X on my machine, I updated it. That was the problem. So it's okay. I want to keep this copy of X from the one on my GitHub, right? So I come back here and I say, okay, no voila. Right? So when I try to git pull, I say, okay, let me, what are my options for git pull? Man, git pull. You say you can do the -f flag, the first, yeah. So this was forward only, cleanup mode, say git log. You're looking for a way that you can force your change. Right? Say rebase only, auto stash, no rebase. There are a lot of options. Git is like GCC. They're very complex stuff. You can't understand all the options. That's what the ones that you're looking for. Say F. When git search is used, you're going to override that check. So I say, okay, should I try this one? Let me try. So I say, okay, I want to try git pull -f. So okay, git pull -f. Not possible to fast forward about it. I said, okay, let me change my git pull options, right? So if I do history, right, and I grep for what was it again? I don't remember. Let me just say pull. Right? So git for config ff only rebase true, right? The third option, I can't remember what it is. So let me see, let me just say git config pull. I have to say add a selection. I don't know what selection is. Say ff only. Right? I'm just showing you how this thing will frustrate you. Git voila. So most people usually just end up deleting the repo and running again. Like they find the place that they have the changes they want, whether it's in their online or their local repo, right? But we don't want to do that, right? So again, I want to try git pull now. We've changed the config, right? Unable to fast forward a button. You see, you can actually check. There's a way to check. How is it again? Nah, that's going to block it. My asset is going to block it. Actually, check what the problem is in your Git. You can do what's it called again? Git bisect, I think. Yeah, Git bisect. Yeah, Git bisect. I think visualize. Why is not giving me the option I want? Let's bisect log. Error. We are not interested. We are not bisecting. And this is new. So I want to show you that there's a way you can get a graph. Let me try to see this on GitHub. You can get the graph that will show you where the problem came. I'm not going to show here. Where did I see this thing? Nope, not what I wanted. Okay. Yeah, so in this case now, you could fix that problem here by reverting these commits, right? So, okay, this is the commit that caused the problem, or just as I was telling you about the commit graph, let me just show you now. So now when you get the problem, now you tried everything, it's not working. You can say, okay, let me come to my commits history. Before I created X, everything was good. I can go back to these commits 22 minutes ago. Everything was good, right? I can say, okay, this commit now, I want to get the commit details. I want to revert to these commits, right? So you say, how do I do that? I come back to my terminal, right? Let me reset this, right? And I say, man, git. There are more than one option. So you want to say git resets. Reset the current head to a specified states, and it gives you options in the first index, git resets, right? So there's also an option you want to use, I think, hard, right? Resets the index and working tree. And what you need to drop I discarded. is already what you want to use, right? So you look at the options, you say git reset, this is formats, git reset, your option, right? And you pass the commit hash to it. There's also git reverts. They revert some existing commits. They give you one or more commits, revert the changes to that part introduced, and record some new commits in that record time. Blah, 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 blah. Right? So let's say, for example, now I want to go with git resets. So let's say I want to git resets. Let me just grab the commit hash from GitHub. Right? So I wanted to do what's this called? 105. How many? I'm trying to remember the number of. I think it's 7, right? So I have the right. So this is you pass this why I was talking about the commits. You need to be able to find out what commits you are looking for, and usually you need to get that is your commit messages. Keeps you. I want to reset to this particular point, right? Can you guys follow? Are you guys following me?
Yeah, sure, I am.
Yeah. Okay. So you just say, okay, I want to git reset to this particular point. Actually, I want to use the hard, right? I want to use git reset. I want to say hard, right? And I pass the commit hash to it, right? So let me see if this works. It's been a while. Yeah, so it's now at this place, right? So if I say ls, you see that x is gone, right? Because I've changed my commit to these states. If I do git log,
But we had removed X now, even before we.
no, just hold on. You see what I'm talking about. Don't worry, right? It has moved the working tree, the commit to this point. Right? See, head is now at 1566 EED, right? And if you come here, you look for 1566 EED. It is at the top now, right? Normally, it would have been all your X, everything with there. Okay? So if you do this status, you see I have the same problem, right? So you don't want to git push to GitHub. It's going to cause wahala. See all this thing I'm doing, like I'm going like this way for you for a particular reason. To show you the problem you have. It's going to have main non-fast forward, right? Because it's rejected. You can try to force it. Git push, force. Okay? It's a forced update, right? So I keep forgetting to another window. If I come here, symmetrical triple now. Right? Can you see the state of the repo now? You see the changes, right? So it's taking me back to 27 minutes ago. This commits 1056 EED. Right? So let's assume that I made some problems. And when you start coding bigger programs, you understand this. They're called dependencies. When you book something in one program, it's not affecting a lot of other programs, and you can't find out where it is. Ideally, you want to find the problem, but sometimes you cannot. So you have the option of resetting to a particular point. So I've done that here. Right? So what's the moral of this story? When you are working with files, with a local repo or a branch, make sure that you are tracking where you're working. Right? So if I've changed a file, for example, on my GitHub, to avoid merge conflicts, before I start working here, I will do a git pull to bring the changes from my remote repo to my local repo, right? And it's in sync. So any change I then make, when I push it by upstream repo, it won't cause a conflict, right? So yeah, I think that's the basics of Git. I've gone past the basics a little. But yeah, another thing you want to work with is, since you're working in ALX, for most of you, is text editors, right? So I think I did, CD, right? So I copied my sandbox details. Where did I put that? Templates of public. CD templates. Not here. Context. Yeah. So this is my details for my sandbox, right? So I want to copy my SSH command. Okay. So I see my password. I want to copy my password. Right. So I'm inside my sandbox now. Right. For ALX, you guys are familiar with this island of files. So instead of using the web term, the more mature way to go about it is to use SSH. You get from your local terminal, whether that is you're using Windows, you have PowerShell or command prompt or whatever. You can access your sandbox this way. Okay. So for ALX, you have Vim. Right? So if I would say, let me create a file for instance, a touch test. Right, so it's an empty file. If I want to add text to it in Vim, I can open it this way. Right, so Vim, when Vim is that when you enter Vim, you can just start typing. Right, you have to be in insert mode. You access insert mode by pressing I, and see it tells me at the bottom here that I'm now in insert mode. Right, so I can type. So this is a test file to show how to use Vim. Okay. Next, I want to save this. I go back into command mode by pressing escape, and I do :W. W is writes, and it saves it. Okay. So I can then exit by going :Q. Okay. That means I want to quit if there have been no changes since the last time the file was saved, the file was written, right? And in this case, the answer is no. So if I do Q, that goes away. Right? So if I come back here, I want to make some more changes. I can go I again. And I say, this Vim is a popular terminal based text editor. So yeah, I've made some more changes and I want to exit. I can combine those two commands in one, W and Q, right, to save and close. Okay. So if I were to cut the file now, it has those two lines in it. Right? So let's assume that I actually came to the file and I made changes, right? Let me just add a new line here and type Wahala. Right? So I want to save, I want to exit now, but I've not saved. If I do :Q, it tells me no write since last change. Add the exclamation mark to override. I say, okay, I will do that. And do Q now. And add the exclamation mark. It saves, but it doesn't quit. So if I have to cut test again, right, it's still those two lines. The last changes I made because I did not save to generate into the file. So that's the basics of using Vim. Right? Obviously, you don't have to work with moving around. If you're working on a terminal, you have to learn keyboard bindings. Your mouse is almost useless for you in the terminal. Like, it's next to useless. Right? So the other one for ALX is Emacs. So I can say Emacs. I want to open that same file, right? Test. So he opens it. Emacs is different because you can drop it to Emacs and immediately start typing, right? The Wahala comes when you're doing something else. So I can say Emacs is also a popular terminal is text editor. Okay. Yeah. So you often hear people talk about the text editor wars. So there was there still is, or Vim kind of won the war, like a serious issue where people had like almost a religious issue about which editor to use. But Vim is the more popular one, and it's included in most Linux distributions out of the box. I mean, if you get Linux, you probably have Vim. Emacs, not so much, right? So yeah. So now I've added some changes to the file. I want to save it, right? So I have to look at the keyboard combination to save. And you see why Emacs is less popular, especially for newbies. So in Vim, all I have to do is enter command mode with escape and then do W to write and Q to exit, right? WQ. But in Emacs, it's not that easy, right? You have to use keyboard combinations. So you often see documentation that's written in a particular way. They will say CX, seeds, or seeds, seed dash something as an option. You can't see any of it here. You say C.X or C.C or C. something. That C is actually control, right? So if I want to access the I want to save now, right? The have to save is Control X and Control S, right? So I'll do Control X and Control S. You see, it's telling me that I've written the file, wrote test. So if I want to exit the file now, I can then go Control X and Control C. That's how to exit it. So if I added text to the file without saving first, say I just said Emacs has this steeper learning curve. Right? And I wanted to save this now. And I didn't go Control X, Control S. I just went Control X, Control C to quit. It would prompt me that you see when you want to save this file before you exit, you could then go yes for Y for yes, N for no. This same thing as Vim to false. I don't know what this does. I think that's command mode. Q for quit all the same. Then these are some commands. So now I want to save this. I just go Y, right? And it saves it. So if I was to cut this now, if I was to cut tests, right? You see that line was saved when I did it, right? But you see the problem. I didn't add a new line, so the prompt is at the end of my text. Say, and I wanted to fix that. Still in Emacs again, Emacs tests, right? See, can I just add a new line and just go Control X, Control S, save it, Control X, Control C to quit, right? So if I was to cut text again, you see the prompt is now where it should be because I've added a new line to the end of the text, right? So when you see them say you're doing a task, they say all your files must end with a new line. That's what they mean, right? So let's say if you are displaying a file in the terminal, it lets the prompt be at the correct position, right? So hold on. Yeah. So that's the basics of Emacs and Vim. You have to learn. It takes a while to learn. They both have learning curves, but Emacs is like steeper, right? So most people prefer Vim, but Emacs, they're actually very configurable. Like let me just show you what my Emacs and Vim look like on my own terminal, right? So my personal terminal, right? Let's say ls cd. Where is this file? Oh, sorry, it's my sound. The file is my something. I'll just go to my test directory and go for I don't know, Python Bob sorts. Right there, I have Python. Okay, yeah, Bob sort now. Then Bob sort. So this is what my Vim looks like. You see, it's very different from the Vim that was there. So you can configure the your text editors as when you get more comfortable with working. Choose one, you're more comfortable with it. You can then configure it to add some things to it, right? So I've added, for example, Pyrite is a linter for Python. As I'm typing, as I was telling me that this is not defined because it's like monitoring your code live, right? So, right, I want to quit without saving. Emacs, I want to open the same file, Emacs, right? Emacs, my configuration is heavier here, right? But it takes about 10 seconds to open. Yeah. So the same file in Emacs, right? So What my battery, oh my word. How did that happen? I think I'm about to switch my phone. Give me a few. What happened? Oh, it wasn't. Oh my word, it wasn't plugged in. They've taken the power now. Yikes. Let me just close this. Yeah. Ew. Issue is dead. How come? Let's close this. Let me. Wahala. Joining on my phone. Yeah, hello guys. Yeah, unfortunately my laptop just went off. I forgot to plug it in and power went off like 30 minutes ago. I thought it was plugged in. I should have checked. I apologize for that. Yeah, so that's basically like what we're going to talk about today. Working from the command line, using Git and GitHub from the command line, and terminal-based text editors, right? So the idea is for ALX at least is that you choose one of those editors. Most people choose Vim, like I said. You learn the commands, right? So if you look at someone that is proficient in Vim, when they are working, they don't move their mouse around. They don't navigate with the direction like the arrow keys. They know the commands to move the mouse around. They know the commands to copy text, copy a block of text, delete a particular word. So if you read the resources they've been given, you can find out what commands do what, right? So it increases your speed and your productivity if you learn how to use Vim. In fact, I found out recently that there's a Vim plugin for VS Code that lets you use the Vim shortcuts, the Vim key bindings inside VS Code. So that's how popular and powerful Vim is. That people, even though they're no longer working in the terminal for the command line, they want to bring those features to VS Code. VS Code is for those of you who have some experience, VS Code is a popular text editor and has a lot of features, right? It's like probably the most popular text editor right now. So, but people want that Vim feature set in VS Code as well. So yeah, that's the basics of I think what we're going to cover today. Let me check so we've covered Git and GitHub, we've covered terminal-based text editors, and what's this last one? So let me just open this document on my phone. It's docs misbehaving. Okay. Yeah, so we've covered terminal-based text editors, covered Git and GitHub. And okay, yeah, so anybody has any questions? I think that's the bulk of the outline for the class for today, for the PLD for today. So any questions about anything? Hello, people.
Yeah, I just want to ask, are we gonna have access for today's lesson, like the recording?
Going to do what?
Can we have today's recording, like for the lesson for today?
Yeah, let me respond to that. Let me respond to that. Yeah, so the sessions are being recorded and they'll be made available. I think I've uploaded that of yesterday, so hopefully by tomorrow I'll share the link so that you get access to it.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, so any questions about what we've covered today? No questions at all. That's very odd.
I have a question.
Please ask.
When you began the session, you began by typing a command called alias ls is equals to, yeah, you are trying to save it so that every time you press ls, it just does the other thing. So
Yes.
you had created the same command yesterday. Did you
Yes.
create it because I thought it automatically saves it, or you have to recreate them all the time?
Okay. So no, that's a good question. And
Hmm.
aliases, they live for the lifetime of a shell session. That's immediately you close your terminal and you open it again, your
Oh,
alias is gone, right? So there are ways
oh,
to make your alias persist. You can save it in a file that is read
hmm.
as startup, right? So when
Okay.
you read about init files, now those are files that
Init
are read,
files.
yeah,
Okay.
initialization files. When your
Hmm.
shell is in application, when it's being started up, there are files that are read, right?
Hmm.
So if you save it in one of those files that are read, your alias
Yeah.
will be loaded into memory. There are also things like shell functions, right? Your bash functions that do things, right? Their aliases. So you can save those in a file that we read as startup, and that way it will persist. So, for example, if you do ls on your machine, whether in your sandbox or somewhere, usually that the alias is already saved there, right? When you do ls, it shows you color because most distributions have that alias saved in your bash RC, right? So, and the bash RC is read as startup, that alias is later into memory. There are a few other aliases, right? So, but as you go along, you will create your own aliases to suit your workflow. It's part of the ways you optimize working in the shell, right? In the terminal. So, I have I don't know, probably like 200 aliases for my terminal, right? Plus bash up and other stuff. But that's not like the important part. The important part is that the reason why I have to do it again today is because I did not save it in a file, at least for this terminal, right? This is not the terminal I use. Like I showed you my own terminal, is I've set that up for the way I like. But to show you how to work in the terminal, since most of you are working in a terminal that doesn't have the bells and whistles, I already show you like a plain terminal, vanilla. And for that terminal, I didn't save that alias in a file. I hope that answers the question.
Thank you.
Yeah. So unfortunately, I was going to come back to working with SSH. So you saw when I connected to my sandbox, like from my terminal, right? So your sandbox is a remote computer, right? It's a computer that is hosted in the cloud and managed by Hobart sysadmins, right? Your web term is a web terminal that allows you access that sandbox, that machine in the browser, right? Your web term
Yeah.
is web terminal. But you don't have to use your web term to access that machine. You can do what I did. You can copy your details from the sandbox page, and you can use it to access your machine through over the internet with a protocol called SSH. SSH stands for Secure Shell, right? So
Yes.
you come back to that later, right? But for now, if I've provided you with the SSH command string, what you need to access the machine SSH is usually the username, the IP address or the host name, right? And some form of authentication. That's why it's secure. So for your sandbox, you use a password, but that's like frowned upon. Most times you want to use a key pair. I won't go into that because it's like not for you now. You come to that point later in the program. But
Mhm.
you can access your sandbox over the internet from your machine without going through the problems of the web term. The web term has a lot of issues, right? It has text reflow issues. You can't copy and paste text in it like the commands you usually use. So yeah, accessing your sandbox from your terminal might be a better. It's probably a better play for everybody, but I'm just saying might, right? So yeah,
Yeah. So I have another
um,
question.
please go ahead.
Hope that's fine. Okay, you said the better way to access the sandbox is via using the terminal for my Windows. But the
Yeah.
problem I'm having with my Windows is that it cannot, okay, when I copy and paste the SSH, it allows it. But when I copy and paste the password, it refuses and I have to type it manually. Is there a way I can solve
Yeah,
that?
that happens. So I'm not that the funny thing is that that problem I've been around that problem for about 8 months. I don't actually considered what the problem is because I found a workaround. The workaround is just to copy like what I did. copy the password to a file, right? And then copy it from that file, right? That's what I do. I don't copy directly from the sandbox page and paste. I don't know, maybe there's some character at the end of the string that is invisible or something, but that's what I do. Try copying the password into a file on your machine. I think you use Windows, create a notepad
Yes.
for it. And that's probably the way to go anyway. Create a notepad with both the SSH command and your password. So you can then go there and copy each one individually and paste in your terminal. So you paste the SSH command. When it prompts for a password, you copy the password and you paste it, and it should work. But failing that, there's always typing it out manually, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you are interested in optimizing that process, you can look online for ways to make it faster. There are ways to do it that you don't have to go through that process every time, right? So, but it differs from platform to platform, so you can look that up yourself, right?
Okay.
Yeah. So, yeah. Any other questions? Hello, people. Hello, people. Yeah.
I have
Okay.
another
So,
question.
please go ahead.
Sorry. Okay. When I was reading somewhere about the merge, how merges work, it talked about there are two types of merges. There was a three-way, and then there was a fast forward. So the fast forward,
Yeah.
I understood, but the three-way was okay. I feel like there's going to reach a point whereby we shall be making like another branch and then another branch. That's what I understood. So do you mind explaining like small, or I'm going too ahead?
Well, you're kind of getting to ahead. You're not going to reach that point for a while. So at that point, you have a better understanding of how Git and GitHub works, right? So if you notice, I didn't explain a lot of things to you. I just showed you today because it's going to be difficult to explain them. But so that when you see an error, you kind of have an idea what it is, right? It takes a while to understand the workings of Git. But it's a good question all the same, so I will attempt to answer it, right? So
Yes.
like I said, the merge conflict is basically when your branches are no longer in sync. You've made changes either directly or indirectly to the same file, right? And it's causing a problem. So merge conflicts, like you said, there's fast forward. That means you just have this file in a different state somewhere else, right? It's changed from the state of the file you have here, but it's a change that doesn't actually contradict that file too much. You can just create a merge commit and do it, right? Nothing changes besides commit, right? But when you now have changes that actually contradict each other in like multiple places, right? So for example, the expression usually used to explain branches and merge conflicts is you have a company, right? You have your main branch, your steady branch is called production, right? Right? Do you follow? Hello, do you follow?
I'm following. I can hear you.
Yeah, so I wasn't hearing it. So yeah, then you have, say, a branch called development, right? Then you have another branch, say, for a feature branch. Let's imagine that you work at Instagram. So the production branch is a branch that the actual app is produced from, right? So for example, your Android app, you have a main branch, repo. The app that ships on the Play Store, right?
Yeah.
Is on the production branch. Let's say you now have a development branch. You often hear about beta. It's mostly the production branch, but you're maybe changing some things like that. Eventually, if they are stable, they will be added to the production branch, right?
Yes.
Maybe like you're adding, I don't know, a feature to say, I don't know, maybe like view somebody's status, like without actually opening it up, like the story, right? Just a feature. That feature would have been created in another branch called the feature branch for that particular purpose, right? It's just a single purpose something. So when it's stable up to a level, it is added to the maybe like the development branch, right? To see if it works well with other things. That's another problem in software development. You do something and that thing works on its own, but it doesn't work with the other things, right?
Yeah.
So Yes, you now test. You have, I don't know, whatever test strategy you have. Maybe you have people you give the apps to test, and they do that, right? So,
Mm.
okay. So eventually, if all is well, right, your changes from your development branch are then brought into your um, main branch, your production, right?
Yeah.
So that's three
Yes.
branches. Okay. So imagine if at some point something broke while in the development branch, right? But the what it affected was not like that's certain bugs, right? It doesn't display there. But when it gets to
Yeah.
production, it now causes a problem, right? So you now want to start. That's why I was trying to bisect and show you how you find a problem, right? So a three-way merge is a way to handle merges that is less, like it's better than like it's like I say, they usually say like a more robust way, a less error prone way of handling merges, right? And a two-way merge, right? And usually like you won't even need any intervention. Like the system will sort that itself, right? So let's imagine that you've made the same. So maybe you're working on the development branch. Obed is working on the feature branch, right? So Obed is working on a feature that is maybe adding music to stories, right? Stories that were not posted with music. He's done his
Mm.
code and done everything, right? You're working on something else, right? So if you were to merge those branches, like I was doing, I was merging main into test into main. That's a two-way merge, right?
Yes.
And yeah, you could Git itself, and because they also have, when you're in production, you actually have tools that are designed to work with Git, right? That's what our level for now, right? So yeah, that's a two-way merge, right? But with a three-way merge, you would then be comparing those two branches with another branch, right? And you then compare
Yes.
the files, right? You compare the files. Say, okay, this was the original state of this file here. You have done this change, and Obed has done this change, right? You could then look at it that way, right? So in that way, you would then create a new merge that incorporates both your changes into the merge, right? So that way it takes away most of the conflicts in the merge. I hope I've been able to explain this. Like I don't think I'm doing
Yeah.
a very good job. But a three-way merge
Yes,
is
you have.
actually comparing two files and looking at the changes and then copying those changes into another file. That's why it's a three-way merge, right? You're not just trying to merge two files together. You are comparing them with another file and then copying the changes to that file, right? So
Okay.
usually for a three-way merge, you need a tool for that, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
But
Thank you.
you can look it up online. A lot of these things are abstract, and you might want to get
Yes.
some visualization, right? Look for something that will help you visualize it, right? That helps a
Okay.
lot
I
because they're
will.
abstract concepts, right? And you have to understand essentially how Git works, because Git doesn't actually check files per se, right? It checks, it looks at code, like the code in the file. You know, all your files are text and they're coded in a particular way. So it looks at the
Mm.
patterns. So it's called blobs, right? So just compare those blobs, and if everything is the same in both files, those blobs are first copied to the merge, and then the changes are now compared until you have a merge that incorporates all the changes without causing usually doesn't cause a conflict. So that's a three-way merge, and that's how it differs from the usual one that you would do, which is a two-way merge, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So
Thank you.
look up chunks and blobs in Git, then look for three-way merge. Look for something that has some visual um way to present the data to you.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. So last thing, a lot of people talk about working from their phones. So I think since I'm on my phone now, unfortunately, I think I should cover that for you. Um, like what happened to me now? There was power when I started, but I forgot to plug my laptop in because I left it unplugged earlier, right? So I was working and the power went off, and until my battery was low, I didn't get an alert, right? So my phone is dead now. That's why my laptop is dead, but I have my phone, right? Because your phone tends to like handle power shortages better, right? If I had a project to do, maybe it was due tomorrow morning, and the power is off now, the first car see where I am, so I can't even get petrol for the generator. How would I be able to do my work? Luckily, your phones are computers. You know, if you've used Android, Android is actually a modified Linux kernel, right? So it's actually a computer. So you can access for example, your sandbox over the internet on your phone. There are different ways to do this. The worst way is to access your webcam in a browser. People do that, but it's the worst way. So there are apps that help you that have terminal interfaces, and they have SSH. Power's back on. Interesting. Yes, and they have like SSH. You can access your sandbox just like you did from your terminal. You can do it on your phone, right? So for the more tech savvy ones of you, you'd have heard of Temox, or something like that. I've heard Temios. If you use an iPhone, there's the ISH app, and there are other ones, but I think these are the ones I've personally used myself for. Seen people using is Temox, Temios, and ISH for iPhone users, right? So basically, what you need in any case, whether you're using a computer or something else to access a remote computer, is SSH. The details for the host you want to access. In this case, our sandbox. You need the username, the host name, and the password, right? Internet access, obviously, because it happens over the internet, right? So those three things, you need an app that gives you the access, SSH, the details, and internet. And in most cases, you have that on your phone as well, right? So you need to get an application, Temios, Temox, or ISH. The rest comes. You already have your details for your sandbox. Yeah, I think you have internet. And once that your platform offers SSH access, usually they use OpenPass or OpenSSH, right? You can then access your sandbox. So I want to show you, it's not my sandbox, but it is a remote machine that I have. So I want to share my screen now. My phone. Yeah. Can you guys see my screen? Hello.
Yes, we can.
Yeah. Okay.
Can.
Yeah. Okay. So I want to use I use Temios, right? On this one. Yeah. So it's a remote machine. I have 3 servers and I have 2 Google Cloud VMs, right? So for example, I want to go into my this is a Fedora machine, right? So you see, I've accessed it, right? I left some processes running in it, and I have an application that lets those processes run in the background, right? So when I log in, I see the information, and I say, okay, and I can clear this, right? Right. So it's just like the machine, right? LS. I can do. Do I have Git installed? I can check if I have Git installed. Okay. Git version. I mean, I don't have Git installed on this machine, right? So let me do text size. Then if I wanted, I could install Git. I could say, so this is, let me just close this, right? It's not really, let me look, this is Ubuntu, so it'll be better. So I could open multiple ones. So same thing, I have something running again. I could clear this. I could say Control L, right? So I could increase the text, right? To make it bigger, and I could say ls, right? So in this case, I think I have Git installed here, so I could do Git version. Right, yeah, so I have Git installed. And I can do some other things like clone repos, everything you can do. This is just like a virtual machine, almost in many ways like your sandbox. It's slightly different. And I think that's on its own important to you, right? But you could do anything you could do in your sandbox here, right? You could clone a Git repo. You could have Vim here. So, for example, so let me open my bash RC as a way of explanation to you about. So bash RC is the file that is read when your bash shell is starting up, right? So I want to open it in Vim now. Right? Yeah, so this is Vim on this machine, right? So yeah, so yeah, This is Vim, and it has options, right? Most of these don't make sense to you, but I want to just show you the part that I know will make sense to you. And these are settings for loading your environment. But if I go after a while, there are some aliases that are saved into your battery by default. So you can see alias ls is equal to ls color auto. Alias grep is equal to grep color auto. These options, all they're doing is just adding color to the output of some commands. In this case, ls and the grep tools, right? So otherwise, it will just be plain text. And there's some other ones, right? ls is equal to, I edited these ones, but they were here before, right? I have a drop-in application for ls called exa, right? So cl is equal to lcf. So every time you hit L and you press enter, the shell substitutes that L for ls minus cf. That's how aliases work, right? So if you come down, you see this, right? So they suggest that you actually create your aliases and put them in a separate file, right? You see them saying this here, right? You may want to put all your additions into a separate file like bash underscore aliases instead of adding them here directly, right? And they give you an example of how to do this. And this is what I'm talking about init files. In this is a bash conditional. They're saying if minus f bash aliases, then dot bash aliases. That means it's going to check, does this file exist? That's what if minus f bash means. Now, does this file exist? If it does, load it during startup. That's dot bash aliases. So I'll show you that file. I have that file as well. Right. So I want to do colon q. Okay. So I want to open my bash.aliases file. Bash underscore aliases. Actually, bash underscore aliases. Okay. So I have stuff here. Right? So this is a bash function apt, right? I have some functions, right? So my point is I added my own aliases, added them here, right? Instead of adding them in the bash RC file, I added them here. But because they are loaded during setup, it makes no difference. I still have all my aliases available in setup, right? So all my aliases, and if I go down, right? Yeah, so I have about 135 of them. Okay, not really 135, but 135 lines in this file, right? So all my aliases in that file, they get loaded when I start up the shell starts up. So that's how you make your aliases you make them permanent, right? So instead of having to enter ls is equal to ls color every time, it's already, you see, it already gives the color output here because it's in that file, and when the shell starts up, it's already there, right? So let me just close this. Let me just exit this. And the reason why I like Termius is that you can save your details here, right? So if I edit this, you see, this I saved it. I named it. This is my web server one. This is the IP address, right? I have it in a group, and you can do the authentication, the ports, because our servers don't use password. There's no password, but we're going to use Termius to save your sandbox. You would say username or IP address. Sorry, hosting. You put the hosting or IP address here, and you will come here. You add your username and your password, and then you save it, and it will try to connect. And once it saves the fingerprints, you could then just come and click your host, and it's login. It's like it's 1 key login, right? So if I log into my server 2 now, because I have details saved, just opens it in about 5 seconds for me. Yeah, so this is my server 2, right? So that's it. So you might want to consider this if you want. I don't suggest that anybody works on their phone, but if for any reason you have to, right, this is an option for you. It makes, I don't know, people like work on their phone for different reasons, right? So yeah, that's how SSH works basically. It allows you to connect to a remote machine over the internet, and you can do it on your phone. Doesn't matter what device it is, since you're basically working on another computer, and this is just like an external control device, right? So it doesn't matter whether you're now working on your phone. The work, any work you're doing will be done on your sandbox or your remote machine, whatever it is, right? And you could access that better. So if you were to do something like a calculation that was heavy, maybe your computer couldn't do it. You could maybe like you have access to a computer that is more powerful at work, could access into that computer, or maybe copy your code there or write the code on that computer and run it, right? So SSH allows you to access remote machines. When that gives you possibilities to do different things, right? Also, there are security implications, but you figure that out later, right? So, any questions at this point? To working on your phone, accessing your sandbox or any other remote machine. Hello, guys.
No, I don't have any questions.
I don't have any either. Only there are no questions actually.
Hello? Hello, Adele? Hello,
Hello?
Adele? Yeah, guys. I don't know. All right, so I guess we've actually done quite a lot. 1 hour 42 minutes already, and since his laptop is also off, we will bring the session to an end here. And to all the newcomers to the community, let me officially take this opportunity to welcome you. The group is for ALS related stuff, and at least you get to meet not just your own peers but senior colleagues as well. And when you're having any issues, you're allowed to ask your questions in the group. But then what I would recommend is make your questions as
Sorry, is it just me or we lost Doc?
wow. So I've been speaking to myself. Yeah, I hope you can hear me now.
Yeah, we can hear you now.
Okay, great. So what I'm saying is that when you like, I was welcoming everyone to the group and sharing what you should be doing whilst in the group. You're allowed to ask questions
Yeah, interesting.
in.
I can hear you now. I don't know what was wrong.
We weren't hearing you, but now we can hear you, Adele,
Wait, when did you stop hearing me?
a while ago.
Oh, wow. So I just finished.
Asking if we had questions, that's when we stopped hearing you.
Okay, if you have any questions, please ask. I don't know. My political enemies are after me.
Anyway, let me just run up what I was saying, then you continue. Yes, so those of you who are new to the group, if you're asking any questions in the group, be explicit about your question as much as possible. If I come into the group and I see someone has posted, please, I need help, there's no way I'll spend my time to now ask you back and forth, what help do you need? What about this? No, like
Or
tell us
I need
exactly what the
I need
help
help
is.
with task 4.
Yes, you can't come and say I need help with tax for, you know, the kind of project, like every cohort is doing a project which probably has a tax for. And even when you tell us, I need help with, let's say, Git tax 4, I myself will not go and open my intranet. Mind you, I've gone through the program for 9 months. I won't go and open my intranet to when I did Git to go and check what was Git tax for to be able to help you. So come and tell us exactly what the problem is. Hey guys, I'm trying to do so this, that. I've tried this, but unfortunately this is the error. So share screenshots of the errors that you are getting. How may I go about this? Or anyone to help me? Anyone who is available for a 5 minutes call, something like that. Be explicit so that when I'm coming to help you, I know exactly what you need help with and whether I can or cannot before I jump onto that call, in order not to waste anybody's time. Okay, so let's take that into consideration. And Adewale, thank you so much. Once you are done, you can end the session. Thank
Yeah,
you.
okay. Yeah. So, any other questions?
Yeah,
Anything
thanks, Doc. I think
today
you're
or
just
previously? If you're here yesterday, anything you saw yesterday, or anything you've experienced, like in, I think, 1 week plus of, yeah, it's 2 weeks now, right? Is it?
yeah, we just finished onboarding. Yeah, so 2 weeks.
So it's just the first week, or is it 2 weeks already?
This is
In
the
your
second week.
okay, second week, your 2 weeks of ALX, anything you've seen, you've noticed. So feel free to ask any questions right now. Right. So anything either related to the actual work of the program or more along real life lines, right? About the program, feel free to ask. And any questions. So by virtue of our experience, there are things we know. Like we passed the stage that you are in, so you have experience. So you can ask questions. Sometimes it's tools you need, right? How can I do this? I say, okay, use this. When you, for example, when you get to C programming, right? You're supposed to write your code in a terminal. A problem you're going to have is C is a statically typed compiled language, right? If you write a C program, right, you have to compile it and then run what you compiled. There's a mistake in the program, like when I was explaining why you need to end your files with a new line character. If maybe you had a print statement, you didn't add any line character, then you have to edit it. You have to go back and edit your C file, right? And then compile it again before you run the executable, right? So this might not sound like a big deal, but sometimes when you are working, you have to maybe run the whole program through the compiler like 10 or more times. You are building your program step by step. Even when there are no errors, you are testing it to say, okay, let me do this step. Does it work? Let me do this step. Does it work? It becomes tedious doing that over and over again. So a tool that most people like to use is an online compiler, right? It handles the compilation for you. So just basically writing code and running it, right? You check your results are displayed almost immediately. So it makes it easier. The point is, you might not know that, you probably don't, but because we have done that, we understand that, and it's okay. Use an online compiler, it makes it easier. Use replates or programmings or whatever. So feel free to ask questions about anything, whether it's technical or not. Please feel free to ask questions. I hope you guys can still hear me.
Yes. We can hear you.
Okay, so you guys have no questions. Okay, so I think we've done another 2-hour session. If there are no questions at this time, this is a good point to drop the anchor. Thank you guys for showing, and I hope you guys gained from the session, right? So
Sorry,
please,
Wally.
yes, please.
Thank you so
Sorry.
much.
Okay, so I just wanted to ask. I know Doc was saying something about the YouTube link. I didn't get so much of yesterday's session because I came in late. I didn't get the Telegram link on time. So
Session, the link, the video to the last session as we uploaded today. If you check the channel message channel, you should see it, right?
that's
I
yesterday's
haven't
session.
published it yet. Yeah. I uploaded it, but I haven't published it yet. So
Oh, okay,
I'll
yeah, but
upload this
okay,
one.
no problem.
Yeah. Then once it's published, I'll share the link in the Telegram
Okay,
group.
so just watch out. The link will be posted in the Telegram group, right? And it will pin, so you can't miss it.
Okay, so Doc,
So let me
today's session will equally be posted.
Yeah, it will. Let me publish yesterday's one. Grab the link and share it in the group right now before the call ends.
Okay, that makes sense.
Thank you, Doc. Thank you, Wally.
Yeah, so people will often ask about recordings, and I always wonder why. Because for me, recordings are a poor substitute for a live session. When I can see something and I can ask a question, and I can say, okay, I understand this. What happens if I do X or Y? It's often always seems like a better option for me than to watch somebody doing it. It's just like I'm watching a video on YouTube, right? I don't know why people always bother about recordings. Yeah, but I guess whatever works, right? So yeah,
You need
the
an
video.
answer or
No, I'm not saying. I'm just asking. Would you not rather be live in the session than to watch a recording?
well, for me,
Wally,
what's even better than that is being live and then watching the recording again.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Okay, so the recordings are made available in time, but over the weekend hopefully, right? So you can watch out for that. The messages will be pinned. So you get notification. Okay. So if at this point there are no more questions, no suggestions,
Yes.
nothing.
On my end, I've published the yesterday's session, and I'm about to share it in the group right now. Okay, so I've shared it in a group. Hopefully everyone should be able to see it now. But I would have to download this session because Telegram stores the video on their cloud. So I'll have to download it and before I can upload it. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, I think we can end at this point. Okay, so thank you guys for coming out. I hope you gained something from this session. I hope that you can then have confidence to practice stuff. You cannot gain proficiency with working on the terminal, working with particular commands, especially your text editors, without practice. So please practice, right? I will send some resources, some cheat sheets and the like for you to when you pick a text editor, you just need to pick one and become more proficient. So there are some commands that are presented to you in easy to understand context and a format that will help you become better with Vim or Emacs faster. Right? So I'll share those. So okay. Have a nice weekend, guys. Goodbye.
All right. Thank you so much too for your time. Really appreciate it.
Yeah.
Thank you. And bye bye.
Thank you, Wally. Thank you, Doc.
so much
Thank
for this.
you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Doc. Thank you, Adele.
You're all welcome. Ending the session. Bye bye.